Okay, so Mr. Wong, you're welcome. Good afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about the other pandemics that we can see in this digital world. Well, this pandemic has been moving forward around the world. We've got 25 million people infected, and we've got 898,000 dead. And in internet, we've got a parallel situation where the cybercrime is taking advantage to cheat on these people in different ways. This digital pandemic is going to have a great impact in the different risk and in terms of the pandemics with these new treatments that trying to be effective, and many people they are just trying to be adapted to these new things, to the supply chains and the operations. So these things they have to do with the digital situation that COVID-19 has forced in many aspects. For instance, the commercial operations to be moved from the server space in a very brief period of time. So for many companies, whether it is small or big, it has been very good and very practical. So they give us the opportunity to prepare their IT services, to train their commercial partners and users. And with this, we can do something that is being attacked by a cyber criminal, and I'm going to be quite they're attacking the sensitive information of the companies. From March of this year, we have seen an important increase in the spam. Also, phishing cases, they have also increased in 1000% around the world. Today, the cyber attack has increased at a 40% around the world. At a local level, according to the Fortune, we have had a 525 try attempts of cyber attacks. So between January and July of this year. So at the same time, we are using the exploit that is called double sec that it was generated in 2017 by a tel broker, and after that it was used in a ransomware, the WannaCry. It seems that more and more we are normalizing this sort of news, hacking, hacking to different public organizations, ransomware that have to do with bank entities. But just to be said is that the cybersecurity is very complicated and took us to the states uh, to take important decisions such as the neutralizations with cyber attack with physical attacks. We can see this is a, something that exploded because of a missile of Hamas. And this is trespassing the digital frontiers. Actually, we on September the 18th in Dusseldorf, a person who didn't receive attention and that person passed away because this hospital was had a ransomware, and this person has been moved to that hospital and they weren't fast enough to reach there. So this has been working for a long time. If we take a look at what is our national history, we have seen some cyber attacks, and in June 2019 we can see an attack towards the cap company, and then the data filtration from the information from the army also in 2019, and cyber attacks against Banco Estado, and also with the leaking of the digital information. So cybersecurity is very important. It affects organizations, small companies, big companies, and even states. But that makes us think it is a problem of investment in cybersecurity. And here is the history. This is a young man. He was very interested in the IT. Probably it was too much that he has interest in on this, because in forest of informatics he was well known as a crack. And in the year 2018, he was talking about his criminal acts to the U.S. government. So he was in contact with an IT magazine to tell that he hacked the personal accounts of the former director of the intelligence in the US, and the same thing that he did with the other director of the FBI by obtaining documents that were highly confidential, such as military missions both in Afghanistan and also in Iraq. So these accounts, of course, were extremely protected by a different security system. So then we started thinking, is it because of the technology only? Is it also the investment in cybersecurity what counts? And why they were not able to stop this attack? Well, vulnerabilities relies on people, because in this case he was using attacks through the digital engineering and also phone calls, and he obtained confidential information that allow him to get access to those accounts. And that is given at a domestic level. I have been working for so many years in the unit of the cybercrime, and effectively, I was able to visit many companies that were victim for some IT crimes. So in this company, the first thing was to say to talk with the manager. And they said, "Well, I have invested a lot of money in cybersecurity. Actually, we have bought two or three firewalls and security systems, and we bought it according to the recommendation of an expert." We said, "Well, this company effectively is aware about what is cybersecurity." But after speaking a little bit with the IT people, then they realized that IT department was some sort of a Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, because they were doing a little bit of everything. They were fixing the printers and fixing the monitors, and unfortunately, when we were talking about training courses, if you had some sort of policy for IT security, in so many cases they said, no, we don't have such a thing. And to ask about these firewalls with these capabilities that they were mentioning, IBS, and they said yes, they acquired those solutions, but they were never configured. So they just said most of those ports were open. So we see that probably this kind of technology does not fix whatever has to do with the cybersecurity. I see it as a soup with different ingredients, and some of those ingredients is the investment in technology, but also should be the education, awareness for the users and the employees, and in the end, this is a mix of things. And of course, this is always going to be sure in 100%, and nobody can offer 100% of security, because it was always going to be a question. If nothing happens, then why you're here? But then something happens, why are you here? It is that kind of duality. But why is this happening? Well, one of the problems that we can associate is this generational gap in the digital area, because this statistics from the National Institute for Statistics, we've got 27 million cell phones in the country, and there are 19 million connections between 3G and 4G. But the thing is that our population is of 19 million inhabitants. So we've got way more cell phones than people living in the country. And this is very complicated, because technology is very immersive and technology is here. And the question is, are we ready? As a matter of fact, just to take this statistic, I'm going to be talking about uh, this presentation from Felipe Arvoy, and we can see that from the year 2000 till today, we've got zero mobile phones, and now we've got 27 million smartphones, access to internet. We used to have 8.7, and now we've got 89.6 in 20 years. And subscribers to broadband, we've got zero in 2000, and now we've got high speed. But just to take the statistics, I'm just going to take up to the 1 to 100 megabytes for as per second, and we've got a 30.9%. And in terms of the storage, we used to have a diskette, and that would allow 4.1, and now we can get to a 10 terabyte with a micro SD. So if we see this technological change in a very short period of time, so now we're just moving into the next one. So we're not going at the same time, we're not learning at the same speed as the technology is changing. But this is not only happening to people, but it happens uh, to things as well. With the COVID, we've had this digital transformation. This is a business process, but this is not something that happened now. In the past, many companies they had to be part of this digital transformation or to die on the road. In the case of Kodak, they were leaders of the photography world in most of the 20th century, and they were not able to understand the potential that the digital potential will have. And in 1978, when they started with the first digital camera, they didn't see it as a business opportunity, and they were trapped in bankruptcy by mid 2012. A similar situation that we saw with Blockbuster and Netflix, which was created and founded in 1997. They said they will be in charge of Blockbuster in the digital part of them. And Blockbuster said that actually, given the moment, they will do that, but that never happened. They will never adapted, and also they had to close later on. And the technology continue to change. And today, are we prepared for this evolution? And why? Why am I asking you this? Because effectively, besides learning about the technology, we need to be sure to take care of this one, because this is a situation that is very complex. And what about the technology? Why this is so complicated? Because this connectivity and and we've got thousands of smart telephones, smart kitchen, smart pods, smart TV, smart refrigerator, video games console that can pay attention of what we're saying, or they pay attention to if we give them a certain order. And the IoT, and it is way more and more, because each one of the devices is like a house. We've got different devices, the computer, we've got so many things, but more than at home, then we can divide it and to say that this is a building. Because the good thing about this is that we've got 65,535 doors and windows, and that the 65,000 doors and windows, we have to keep them closed, because the cyber criminal could access to our house by forcing those windows or doors. Besides all of this, we need to say that every 1,000 lines of code, one of them will have a security issue. So per se, there is no software that is 100% secure. And if we use a little bit of mathematics, then we can see that in this case, Windows 10 will have 80 million lines of codes, Linux 14 lines of code, and so on and so forth. The software for the Hubble Space platform, Boeing 787 has 6.5 lines of codes. The And then we can see that the LHC has a 50 million, and with that, we need to add antivirus, the automatic solution if we've got Word or PowerPoint, Excel. So we need to also add our software to issue pictures, and also we need to add all kind of software that we have downloaded. So we will add, and there are millions and millions and millions of code lines that we've got. And if we already started that one of those code lines, every 1,000 lines, one of them is going to have a security breach, then we've got a huge situation here. But we need to be careful about what? Who are those persons that are behind those cyber attacks and those vulnerabilities? Because their motivation and the amount of resources that they've got, it is a feature that is going to set a huge difference. In this case, we can see that the skaters and the ones that are curious about it, they just want to see new tools that they are on the internet, and by trying that, and the system may cause a huge impact in the organization. The same thing happens with the insider or internal peoples or workers that works with us. So they can work as a motivation because as a negligence or because it is some sort of a vendetta, and this is going to allow us to have a problem with or elements of security. And and also by the hacking of the website, we also have companies that are cyber criminals that are looking to get some economic advantage. And of course, we need to be very careful about them. Also, we've got some organizations that are looking for a competitive advantage, and we've got also the industrial espionage. We also have in the higher level the states, because they're looking for a geopolitical position and to have a position of a power. So also we're changing everything and the intelligence methods, because in the past, if James Bond wanted to sabotage a computer, they just put their best weapons, their best suit, and to be equipped with the highest technology and to take this cat with a virus. But they must be infiltrated himself, and also he should have access to that computer. Well, this is also changing and is evolving. Some governments, they realized that they could use this technology, and also they could do the work of their human spies couldn't do it. So this is how we've got this new spy, this spy 2.0. Let's imagine that James Bond had the mission to be infiltrated in an underground nuclear plant to be protected from a threat. Well, this is in data for enrichment and uranium enrichment, and the allies said that Iran was using this centrifuge plant for other uses that was not uh, being used in order to generate a fuel. So they had to deactivate this centrifuge because in this plant they're in the middle of the desert. So how to do it? They assess different ways of doing that in order to send these fly over the place or to put a missile, and because of all the international consequences that this might have. So they thought about it, and instead of sending a missile, they say, okay, we're going to use a malware. It was cleaner. And with that, they start with what was the Olympic Games operation. And what was this operation about? Well, they created a malware that was so exclusive that will use different security firmware that was inside a USB memory stick, and then they put this memory all over this nuclear base, and they just wait. They just wait for someone, an user, an officer will take this pen drive, will put it in their workstation, and at this point, it would be very easy to criticize, but everybody feels curious when you find a pen drive out of the street, and you want to know what's inside, or even more when you go to a presentation and they give you a USB, then you connect it at your workspace or probably at home to use it on a daily basis. So in this case, the malware, of course, it was distributed along the network. It contaminated, this contaminated everything, uh, got to the centrifuge and started to run at a very high speed. They've got a problem with the parts and pieces, and with that, they had to stop. And the best thing that is that nobody entered to that complex. Still, many cyber criminals are taking advantage of these technologies, and of course they are growing and growing, and the traditional methods for defense that we're used to use are no longer feasible. Are a simple antivirus, and also in prevention we need way more intelligence to invest in education and security protocols that would allow us to have a better system. So now with this crisis, everybody is trying to have a better change on their daily activities, and these facts are being of a good use for the cyber criminals. They have been the first one to take advantage out of what is happening. Actually, the phishing that we are used to associate with fraud, they pretended to cheat on people and obtaining bank account information or personal information. Today it has increased, and this is the most effective methods to distribute a malware. And of course, this is being used for so many things, such as to spread the personal information and corporate information and banking information. And also, if that is the motivation, I just want to tell you a short story. It's going to be represented in a comic, and that is by trying to show what's happening in the digital world compared to the real world. If we take a look, we've got a delivery person here. The first thing that we do with the delivery boy that comes to our house is that this person has the corporate uniform, corporate colors, is going to deliver a package. And of course, we trust this person. Why? Because he or she has their own uniform, and we recognize it as a mail delivery person. So we recognize the logo and the company. So what they provide to us, the first thing we do is that we open this, and let's imagine that within that we see a group of codes. So our security system is what it's going to do. They're going to check it so there is no threat. Why? Because today, those small pieces of code, the only thing that they do is to look at internet at what is the real malware, to bring it back to us, infect us, and then we will create the real attack. So clearly, there are three actions. If we compare it with the digital world, the delivery boy is going to be our cyber criminal. The package is going to be this fraud email, and that is going to be imitating a real company, and it's going to induce us to open this attachment in the email, and then we already trigger a series of events that will go from the execution from this small program that is called a dropper until the real execution of this malware, the real malware that we got on the internet. So we're going to hurry a little bit. So this evolution that the classical fishing is having, we are looking at this more and more here in Chile. And not only we need to pay attention to this kind of messages, these fraud messages, but also to this kind of other messages, because in this case they are not requesting any kind of access code or anything, but it is sharing a normal file. This is the case of a PDF file that when we do the analysis, we see different techniques such as heat spread to corrupt the internal structures, and with that we're going to have a share code that is going to be working as a dropper, and that is going to be escalating in the end. And this is a simplified path. If you see it, this is just the dropper that effectively didn't have much of an interaction. We just receive an email, and the only thing that it's doing is to go to the internet and to download the second part of this malware. And finally, we can see that this is going to touch many records of our operative system. But why is this all happening? Because effectively, the human factor is the most important one, and sometimes involuntarily we are providing this kind of information as it happens to the person of emergency. He took a picture and he is in charge of security in Hawaii, and it has his password. Same thing here. We've got the username and the password. He was being interviewed, and the username and the password was written. Well, to mitigate this attack that is being created today, we need to explore the weakest link. And one important thing is the digital education. Let's not forget about the common sense. There is no magical recipe that we can be talking all day and online about how to take care of yourself in terms of cybersecurity, because there is no a silver bullet for this. It's just common sense. And also to take care of ourselves, digital education must be integrated by each one of the institutions by an ongoing policy and a constant one. And also, we will have a better management in terms of the users. And with that, we can cover the growing menaces that we've got in the cyberspace. We will always have this equation the longer time, we will have more experience. So with this, I would like to finish. This is Thomas Reed that says that each link of the reasoning, the evidence of the last conclusion, cannot be higher than the weakest link in the chain. With it doesn't matter what is the how strong the rest is. So this is a quote. The chain, it is as strong as its weakest link. And if you receive an email from a prince from Nigeria who wants to give you, and please do not think that this is this person, but it's this other person here. Okay, thank you very much.